In addition to encrypting files and folders, we can also encrypt entire hard drives to keep the data on them safe. Now, often you may want to encrypt a hard drive if you're using a portable computer like a laptop, for example, and you might want to encrypt a hard drive to ensure that it's protected in case it gets lost. Now, disk encryption uses cryptography to encrypt the entire contents of a hard disk or even a removable media device like a USB stick. Now, theoretically, the disk can't be used unless the correct key or password is then provided on boot up or on use of the disk. Now, disk encryption can be done a couple of different ways. The first way, and probably becoming the more common way, is to use a Trusted Platform Module, or TPM, if the computer has it. And this is basically just a cryptographic chip that is integrated into the system's board. And if the drive is encrypted, before the drive even boots up, this module comes up and prompts you for a password or a key, and the drive is then decrypted and the operating system is allowed to boot. Now, a lot of systems don't have these, but you can still do full disk encryption, including the boot partition, by using a couple of other methods. In some cases, there may be a program that resides on the disk itself that prompts you for a password before any other boot action happens. In other cases, you may have a private key stored on a USB stick, for example, that's inserted into a slot on the computer, and then when the computer's turned on, the drive doesn't boot unless that key is in there. And it may prompt you for a password or a key, but the program is on the USB stick itself. Now, as I mentioned before, disk encryption can involve just a single partition on the drive or the entire drive itself, including the boot partition if you want. Now, if someone were to steal your laptop, for example, and the drive is encrypted, fully encrypted, even if they remove that drive and mount it in another computer, they cannot access the data on it. So it's actually very secure. So what I want to do now is show you an example of disk encryption, and I'm going to show you BitLocker, which comes standard with Windows 7 and 8. Now, BitLocker drive encryption comes standard with Windows 7 and 8, and you can get to it in the control panel. So we're going to click BitLocker drive encryption, and there's a couple of different options you can use here. You can encrypt the C drive, and let's turn BitLocker on for that. However, this computer doesn't have a Trusted Platform Module, a TPM. If that's the case, you can still use it, but the administrator of the box has to go into the security policy and set a couple of things. They allow BitLocker without a compatible TPM option in the require additional authentication at startup policy for the hard drive and OS volumes. So we can turn that on if we want without a TPM. I'm not going to do that for this particular computer. Instead, what we're going to do is also use something called BitLocker to Go, which can encrypt USB sticks, entire drives. So let's go ahead and click this, and we're going to turn on BitLocker for this particular USB stick. Now it's going to initialize, and then it's going to ask me how I want to unlock the drive using a password or smart card. Now, I'm not going to use a smart card for this computer, but I could use one if I had one for my machine. So I'm going to put in a password, and obviously the larger the password, the better. And I'm going to say next to this, and it's going to ask me how I want to back up my recovery key. And you definitely should back up the key some way. You can save it to a Microsoft account, but that's in the cloud. You can save it to a file or print it. I'm going to save it to a file, and it's just going to pick a place on my documents, a particular document. I'm going to just leave it at its default, and click Next. And we get two options here: to encrypt use disk space only, which is a little bit faster, it says, and better for new PCs and drives, or encrypt the entire drive. It's a little bit slower, but best for drives already in use. And I already have files on this drive, so I'm going to click Next. And am I ready to encrypt it? And I just click Start Encrypting to do so. Now, it can take a few minutes to do so, and it's going to tell me what its percentage is here. And we're going to give it a couple of minutes to go ahead and encrypt. Now it's telling me that it is complete, so we're going to say Close. And we have several other options here. We see that BitLocker is on, and we can back up the recovery key or change the password whenever we like. Add a smart card. We can also turn on auto unlock so that when the drive is inserted into our computer that has the recovery key on it, it will automatically unlock. So let's go ahead and remove the disk and then reinsert it and see how it reacts to being allowed for use. Okay, I've just reinserted the disk, and it shows up in our computer view. And if I click on it, it says removable disk, but it has the little encrypted icon there. So I'm going to click on it, And BitLocker is going to prompt me for a password to unlock the drive, and it's not going to let me use the drive until it's encrypted. We have some options here, and we can enter the recovery key in case we need to, or automatically unlock the stick on this PC. But we can only do any of those after we've entered the password. So let's go ahead and do that. And let's go ahead and unlock it. And now it's unlocked, and we have our stick here, and it has my work information on there, some work backup materials. So if that were to be lost, that might be catastrophic to what I'm doing. So now we have an encrypted USB stick. So we've encrypted a USB drive. And that's essentially how USB, or rather how drive encryption works. And again, we could do this with our entire hard disk if we chose to.